than Philly Sports Talk Show. It's great to be here with all of you. Unfortunately, the content we'll be covering for our sports teams is not so great and happy today. But despite all of that, Gavin, it's great to be here with you. We have live real sports to report. Hopefully, we have it for a little while. But yeah, we got a lot to go over today. But first off, how was your weekend? How are you? And I'm very excited to be here.
Zach, first of all, my weekend was great. And, I actually did something new this weekend. I had to try tie-dyeing, bleach tie-dye a shirt. Didn't really go that well. The shirt came out pretty cool. It was blue and white. And after that, kind of just relaxed, watched our Phillies get decimated on Sunday. And, I don't know, Friday I went out to eat. But, Zach, how about you? How was your weekend?
Up and down. For the Phillies as far, I don't even know what we were watching. It's great to have NBA back. I'm really excited to bounce back and forth between sports. Phillies offense starts to come alive. We'll break it all down in just a couple minutes here. But other than that, no, I think a pretty good weekend outside of that. But you know what? At least it's great to just have sports back, have something to be watching and be engaging in live. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Heck yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, for those who may or may not know, you thought me and Zach were anime without sports. Just wait. Just wait till we see how much we really disagree when the sports are really on.
It's horrible. We're gonna have to break it all down. But no, Sixers are 1-1 in the exhibition games. The Phillies are 1-2. If that season does continue, they'll be playing the Yankees. They're on track to play them tomorrow night. Tonight's game's canceled. We're gonna cover all of that and more. But just before we really get into it, this morning I was expecting to come on this show and just start screaming like Stephen A. Smith. But given the whole coronavirus situation, it's kind of mellowed me out a little bit. But what did we just see this weekend? What was that? Gavin, this team didn't really have high expectations going into this year like they did last year. Last year, we were talking about deep playoff run, given that they were 500 the year before with their first year with a new manager. They bring in a couple of new pieces, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto. We started calling Matt Contact the next Howie Roseman. Like, really? Really, that's what we're doing? That's the standard we're putting them at? We think that front office is so normal. John Middleton flying out to Las Vegas to personally welcome Bryce Harper to the Phillies. And what was that this weekend? You dropped 2 of 3 to the Marlins. What's with Miami? All right. December 1st, the Eagles lose to the Dolphins. The Miami Heat own the Sixers this year, beating them 3-1 in the series. You had one great game. Thanks to Josh Richardson for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Phillies can't beat the stinking Marlins. I don't understand what it is. Aaron Nola goes out there. He gets the strikeouts. He give up some good hits. Offense barely makes a noise the first game. Bryce Harper, Rhys Hoskins. Where the hell were you? I don't even understand what's going on here. JT Realmuto's batting 4. I'm glad they're not playing with the lineup the way that you gave Capelwood throwing at a dartboard. But what are we watching right now? And yes, I understand the coronavirus situation. We're going to break it all down. I have Twitter on my phone constantly trying to get updates. The MLB has called an emergency meeting. This could be like March 11th all over again. We certainly hope not, given that we have more information now. But what is going on, Gavin? Why is this team – are they dysfunctional? Is it because of their front office? Dare I call them the Cleveland Browns of Major League Baseball? First of all, let me get something straight here. Why are we excited for this season? We get a new pitcher in Zach Wheeler. Jake Arrieta's supposed to come back healthy. Aaron Nola is supposed to have a bounce-back year. Bryce Harper is settled in now, ready to play. Rhys Hoskins is going to fix his swing and get rid of that launch angle BS given to him by Gabe Kapler. But here's the thing. You bring in a new manager, which I like so far. I like that he got Zach Wheeler pitch quite deep. Gabe Kapler would never let him do that, even though he's doing so well. So I appreciate that so far. The improvements are there. But one thing that I really can't wrap my head around is, what does this team lack? Is it because of the front office? John Middleton and Matt Contact, right? Matt Contact, big Gabe Kapler fan. And I'm sure that if you just asked Matt Contact and said, you have the full reins, your decision, do we keep Gabe Kapler or not? I think it's pretty fair to say that he would have kept Gabe Kapler. John Middleton went over his head to fire Gabe Kapler. All right, he listened to his fans. He listens to whoever the hell he's listening to.
Listen to me.
He listens to you. He listens to me. I wanted Kapler fired too. But why do you keep Matt Contact around now? There's a saying, if you're going to shoot the king, you better make sure you kill him. So you're going to jump over Contact's head and you're going to keep him there? What does that say to you when your boss says, I don't trust you to make the decisions that I specifically hired you for, but I'm still going to keep you around? When you have a dysfunctional front office, your whole team gets to know it, and then the whole team collapses the same way the Cleveland Browns did this year. The Sixers front office is still being patched up. We blame Brett Brown for that stuff. Who the hell are we going to blame for the Phillies this year? I get it. It's 3 games. But this is the kind of shit that's been happening forever. And I'm sorry for my language. I know we try to avoid cursing on the show, but this is frustrating me a lot right now. I don't understand what is going on with this team. I'm like, you know what? Why can't this team be good? Why can't Aaron Nola be dealing with stuff? It's one game. I get it. It's one game, but it's the stinking Marlins. You swept the Braves last year. You beat the Nationals away. They went on to win the World Series. The Braves won our division. You're beating good teams. You go on the road and sweep the Cubs. You beat the Rockies. At least there was promise throughout the year. They look flat right now. That looks like last season. Andrew McCutchen's back. The energy is there. JT, first game, throws a guy out at second. What's new? Pay the man. Bryce Harper says that, well, Bryce, why don't you show us why you're worth the money? Maybe that's why they don't want to pay JT, because you're not doing anything worth your money. Oh, my God, he batted 260 last year. It's his first year. I don't care. He's in the 3 spot right now. I don't know why he's not in the 4 spot. I guess JT with his home run the other night was proving that. You have a DH now. You don't got to pull pitchers so early because you don't want them hitting in the spot. The offense needs to be productive. And what the hell is wrong with this bullpen? Why can't anybody pitch? First pitch, home run. All right, Bob, I don't know who the hell was pitching. McClain was his name, and he went out there for one pitch, gone. All right, who is this kid? Maybe he's good. Maybe they're from. Nope, there's the home run. All right, goodbye. Was it Aguilar who hit the ball out with him? I don't even know what's going on anymore with this team. You bring in Cole Irvin. Why is he still here? He didn't have any promise last year. Why is Vince Velasquez still starting baseball games? I have a saying. I say Vince Velasquez is good at everything except for pitching. And he proved me wrong on that on the first hit of the game, or an error. It was an E1. Reese tosses the ball to him. Drops it. Are you kidding me? And then you're throwing strikes right down the middle? I don't understand what's going on right now with this team. I don't know who to look to. I don't know what to turn to. I'm frustrated. This team's really getting me upset right now. You think I'm mad the Sixers are the 6th seed right now? Try the Philadelphia Phillies. You know what? You can lose to the Yankees. You can lose to the Red Sox. You can lose to the Rays on a good pitching day. You can lose to the Braves because of how productive their offense is. You can lose to the Nationals because of how good their arms are. But you can't lose to the Marlins. Something about Miami. Can we ban Miami from all sports leagues, at least to not play us? What is this? Gavin, I've spoken a lot. I know. It's been 7 minutes here. I'm going to let you go. But what is going on with this team?
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I have a smile on my face is because I've known Zach for a long time. This is the most animated I've ever seen Zach ever be over any sports team. Even when the Eagles were down a lot last year, he wasn't even that animated. So now it's my turn. Zach, you talk about who is in the bullpen? Nobody. I don't know anyone in there. Oh, why is Nick Pivetta up here? Okay, he didn't do anything. Vince Velasquez should never be a starter. He should have been in the bullpen. Hell, after yesterday's performance, I don't want to see him anywhere in Philadelphia. Let me relax a little bit. Let me take it back. All right, you paid money for David Robertson, who only played like 6 games last year, just to not play anymore, and he's nowhere to be found this year. Sir Anthony Dominguez, arguably our best bullpen pitcher, has not even got his Tommy John surgery yet. So you got to think about Zach. He didn't play that much last year. He's not playing at all this year. And he's probably not going to play that much next year either. Because you know what? He's afraid to get the surgery. Having said all of that, right? Now, let's look at it. Well, you know, we can go blame. We blamed a lot of Gabe Kapler. You know, whenever I want somebody going, I will sit here and talk about them till the day they leave. Robert Covington, to be exact. You look at Gabe Kapler, to be exact. Do I got to get on John Klintak too? Because it seems like I got to. Because you keep spending money that does not work. All right? You're not doing what we are asking for. You know this bullpen sucks, but you don't do anything about it. You know Sir Anthony Dominguez did not get his surgery yet. So instead of him going around doing whatever he's doing, that got injured again. I don't know if you know this, but he went out and got hurt somehow, some way before the season started, before he threw one pitch. He didn't even get the surgery for the first thing. So now we got to look at it. He's 25. John Klintak, know him. He's going to pay Sir Anthony Dominguez $20 million, 20 years, $20 bazillion. They're not even doing nothing because that's what he does. So let me relax. All right. Let me go to yesterday's game. That was a disgrace that took place at Citizens Bank Park. And Joe Girardi, I want to personally send you an apology note because I didn't think this team was going to be that bad when you signed up for it. I think if Joe would have realized when he signed up, he would have went somewhere else. They come here. And Joe, I apologize because this is not the team that we should be. Rhys Hoskins, you got to stop looking at fastballs down the middle, my guy. Swing. You do this. We want to see you do this. I don't care, but show me that you're live at the bat. You just watch. Like you get walks, that's great, but swing. You got power for a reason. Zach, if I was tall and if I was Rhys Hoskins' height and I had a little bit longer arms and I had a little bit more power, and you told me to go up there and to look at pitches, and I would be like, are you serious? I'm swinging. All right, now you got to look at Bryce Harper. You want to scream about pay JT or Rito, which I say the same thing because JT and Didi Gurris look like the only man we have on this offense. I'm going to give Andrew McCutcheon some slack because he hasn't played baseball in almost 400 days. All right? So Zach may seem animated, but I'm upset because when it comes to Bryce Harper, you got $330 million. $330 million of what? Last year, okay, cool. You led the team in RBIs and home runs, and you had 260 average. Where did that get us? That got us nowhere. Zach, if you would have given me $330 million and told me that's the expectation, I would do that. We gave $330 million to a guy that hasn't really gave us something to really hoot and holler over. Yeah, the grand slam, the walk-off grand slam, that was picture perfect. That was Hollywood written script, but nothing else. Zach, this team is a disgrace. The only great thing that happened this offseason, Zach, was Didi Gregorius. And I don't think they're going to be able to keep him because you know what? If I'm Didi Gregorius, I'm like, wow, I had 2 home runs in the last 3 games and no one else has did anything. Why would I want to stay? Why would you want to stay? Because I don't want to stay. Zach, I had to turn off the game, right? I turned off the game. When Bryce Harper hit the 3-run home run, we were up, right? What does Vince Velasquez do? He gives up a home run right back. We go into the bullpen. The same thing happens. We should not lose to the Miami Marlins. The Miami Marlins come in last place every year. Every year. Zach, I've been a big baseball fan since 4 or 5 years ago, right? Never in those 4 to 5 years has the Marlins been over last place. They never been over last place. They stay at last place. So, Zach, let me ask you this question. You talk about Clinton, I think need to do. They need to just get rid of everybody but Joe Girardi. They need to knock down this whole bullpen, and they need to. And Aaron Nola, you want to talk about Aaron Nola as an ace? And Aaron Nola was on a different team. He wouldn't be an ace. He would be another rotation starter pitcher. So Zach, where do we go from here? Because right now, I know it's only 3 games, but Zach, those 3 games mean a lot. If you can't be Miami, what in the world do you think we have any chance of competing with the New York Yankees? We're going to go to Tampa and try to beat a talking Blake Snell and Charlie Morton and whoever else they have down there. And then you want to go to Atlanta and beat Atlanta. And you know Jacob deGrom is not happy. Jacob deGrom's going to come out and throw 99 to 100 miles an hour. So, Zach, this team, I said they're top 10, number 6 to be exact last week. I take that back. I'm really sorry for anyone that thought that. I apologize. I false advertised because that's what it feels like. This whole season feels like a false advertising.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I was in the top 10 with you last week. I definitely wasn't at 6.
No,
but
yeah,
there's no reason to have expectations for this team. Never was, never has. Like you mentioned, I mean, some of these guys we view as all-stars, they're nothing on other teams. You're right, Didi and JT are the only guys that have showed up for this team. What are we watching? What is there to look forward to? Outside of those 2 players, what to look at? Rhys Hoskins was supposed to be your 4-hitter, your cornerstone, your next Ryan Howard. What's he done the past 2 years? He was in the home run derby 2 years ago when Bryce Harper won it, and neither one was in it last year. These guys are hiding behind something here in Philadelphia. Oh, get paid in Philly and don't do anything afterwards. Rhys hasn't gotten paid yet. I'm not paying him anytime soon.
No.
But I don't understand what this team is like. You can see a plan for a lot of teams. What's Washington's plan? Pitching. What's Atlanta's plan? Aggressive hitting. Right? Tampa, pitching. The Yankees are just great all around. Yeah. Astros banging on trash cans. I mean, it's wrong, but at least it's a plan. What do the Phillies have? Like, are we a pitching team? Are we an offensive team? Are we a $330 million thing in right field? I mean, what are we? Bryce Harper leaves the Nationals. They win the World Series the next year. Are we trading him and winning the World Series? I don't think so. I think that's just a little bit of an unfortunate situation. I feel bad for Harper in a way for that. But you're making an awful lot of money, bud. And this is what this team looks like. I get it. He had a home run yesterday. 4 runs. The offense wasn't a problem yesterday. And if we are pinpointing different problems each day, then this is a very young, immature, incorrect team. It's like my golf game. Some days I'm hitting the ball straight. Some days I'm putting well. And in the days where I'm not hitting straight, the days where I'm putting well, I'm not hitting the ball straight. On days where the pitching is well, offense is nowhere to be seen. On days where we're hitting well, the pitchers just put the ball right over the middle of the plate. I mean, come on. What is this? You got Gene Segura at third base. You got Scott Kingery at second. You got defensive pieces. What's going on here? John Middleton goes out and says, let's spend stupid money. You missed out on a few key players. You bring in Zach Wheeler, not a bad option. Wheeler looks like our ace right now. He should be over Nola, in my opinion. Arrieta's supposed to be healthy.
What?
If
Oh,
that ever works, he's supposed to start tonight. That game was canceled. But you can't talk if you're not going to walk it, right? What did Howie Roseman say before the season, during the beginning of the offseason? We're going to get younger. What'd he do? He got younger. Infused a lot of youth into this team. Still re-signed JP. Kept Alshon Jeffrey. Not loving that move, but Malcolm Jenkins, we know that's a very contested topic, but he's an older player, and you drafted Kamon Wallace to come in and replace him. Nigel Bradham's gone. Cameron Grugier-Hill was young, but he's gone. They did what they said they were going to do, and they have a Super Bowl to their ring. They have at least one or two. Doug Peterson has 1 or 2 more years of leeway if he stop running the ball, and you know how I feel about that, Gavin. But what has this team done as far as the front office is concerned that says this is a good team or that we deserve the benefit of the doubt? What's Matt Klentak done over the past few years? Only thing I remember was giving away your whole farm system to get the 4 aces. I'll give you a quick rundown of how this team's looked. They won the World Series in 08. 09, they went back to the World Series. In 2010, they were a good team. They really went all out that offseason, pretty much got rid of their farm system, trying to bring in a bunch of pitchers, which they did. They allowed the Cardinals to get into the postseason and lost to them in the first round, the same way that the Bears let the Eagles into it and then lost to the Eagles on the double doink. Thank you, Cody Parkey. 2012, he became non-existent. 2013, 2014, 2015. Even we're basement dwellers with Miami. 2015, 2016. You bring in Gabe Kapler. This team becomes a 500 team almost, 80 and 82. Oh my goodness, there's hope. Abdul Herrera is a young star. And then Reese Hoskins comes up the next year. We know what happens. Abdul Herrera does something stupid on July 4th weekend. Ends up being done here indefinitely. You talk about all these other things that happen.
He wasn't no prize anyway. Mm-hmm. He was just a waste of space in the center field.
Quinn and Adam Beasley now, which are both pretty talented players in my opinion. Quinn just had
a good game yesterday.
And my point on this little rant, trying to keep it as mellow as possible before I start ecstatically screaming. Apologize to our viewers who have headphones in. I'm going to try not to. But where's the plan? What's this team's identity? What's the San Francisco 49ers identity? Run the ball. What's the Seahawks identity? Russell Wilson. What's the Chiefs identity? Speed. What's the Bears identity? Defense. And let's take it over to baseball. We spoke about this a minute ago. Braves with hitters. Nationals with pitchers. What is this team's identity? Where is the plan? If you have no plan and you're saying, all right, a little piece here, a little there, blah, 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 you're never going to build a foundation. In this offseason, you should have went all out. Yeah, I like DD a lot, but if you told me that we could have invested that money to get another starting pitcher or another reliever or potential closer, I would have been fine keeping Segura at second and bringing up Alec Boehm early. And then you would have been able to go out and get another pitcher. Where's the identity for this team? Is it defense? Is it pitching? It's not hitting. I'll tell you that right now. Reese Hoskins ain't showing up. There's no identity for this team, and that's a disgrace to me, and that's why it's so hard to envision this team doing anything this year. Yeah, they're 1-2. It's not a big deal. The Nationals are 1-2. They'll turn it around. But there's no confidence in my mind that the Phillies are going to turn it around. There's not, because there's just nothing there to show that they could do that.
Well, first of all, I think the only thing that makes me keep watching Phillies games is to see the man Joe Girardi come out of the dugout and sit there and walk all the way to the pitcher's mound, knowing that the man that he's about to bring out in the bullpen sucks even worse than what we have out there on the mound to begin with. I feel bad for the guy. And let me go and Jake Arrieta. You bring him in. He was a Cy Young winner. He wins the World Series with Chicago. Kind of like one of those walk-off moments where, you win something, you do all the greatest moments, and then you leave, and then you go somewhere else. Or payman words, you retire and you go off on top. You have done nothing since you've been here but criticize and get hurt and give up home runs. Jake Arrieta, that was a waste of money as well. Zach, you want to talk about waste of money? Let's do it. Let's go through all the money that the Phillies has wasted recently. I don't want to say $330 million is a waste, but I'm sure not far away from saying it's getting to the point that's a waste. You want to talk about another waste of money? Let's talk about the Aaron Nola's contract, which I don't want to say that's a waste of money, but last year didn't look like it, and this year doesn't look like it's going to be another whatever money he got. I know he got a nice little extension. Why are we spending money on wasteless talent? Why? These guys show up here and there. Zach, what I mean by here and there is like that person that you come across every day. One day they're in a good mood, the next day they're in a bad mood. Why are we doing this? If you would have told me, Gav, I'm going to give you some odd $1 million to go bring in free agents. I already know what I'm doing. Or you give me the Philly roster for a day, I know what I'm doing. I'm getting rid of all the problems. I'm gonna find some new beginnings, new something. That's why the Dodgers continue to be great because one, they're getting rid of the farm. Let's just talk about the farm. The Dodgers farm, they can get rid of their farm, right? And they'll still have great people to come up there. Our farm sucked since we got rid of whoever we had in there, and it continued and never got better. Zach, before I lose my mind, it's only 12:20. I can't. This is going to be a long 60 games. And ladies and gentlemen, I may remind you, we go against the Yankees this year. We're going against the Tampa Bay Rays. Don't forget the Braves. Don't forget the Nationals, even though they don't got that many hitters anymore. But they still got a three-headed monster. And you still you can't count the New York Mets because apparently Peter Alonso can hit however home runs he wants to hit here. This team's a disgrace.
It's going to be tough. The question, can they bounce back? We don't know. And we're going to have to continue to advance the situation. We do have a guest coming on around 12:40 to break down more about the Phillies and the current situation given the coronavirus. But right now we do have one of our quick announcements, and then we're going to be breaking down some in the NBA. The Sixers are 1-1 so far in their scrimmages. We'll see how that goes and more right after this. We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. We are now supporting a custom designed mask with our logo on it. Purchase it today, and 10% goes to a foundation of our viewer's choice. It offers a full nose and mouth coverage, single-sided print, includes 2 2-inch elastic ear loops, non-medical grade product, and finally, $1 from every mask sale is donated to a nonprofit to feed children in need. As a part of our mission here on the show, and hopefully soon the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show on the go, we'll be showing off those masks as soon as they come in. Gav, our t-shirts are supposed to come here this week, so we'll be showing them off on the Friday show. Going to be exciting and more. So now let's shift it over to another Philly team, which has had its fair share of disappointments this year, but right now I'm a little high on them. The Philadelphia 76ers, they won on Friday against the Grizzlies. They lost yesterday to the Thunder, but their plus-minus, given the situation, was actually not that bad. Ben Simmons was plus 21 yesterday against the Thunder. We pretty much had our bench in the rest of the game. But other than that, Gavin, Ben Simmons 1 for 2 from beyond the arc in that first game. I don't think he attempted a 3 in that second game. It's going to be an interesting pattern to see what happens, but Ben looks really well at the 4 spot. I really like him inside, using his handles, kicking the ball out, or even finishing at the rim. Putting more pressure or less pressure on Joel Embiid to shoot the ball as well, because now you have Shake Milton, Josh Richardson, and Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris also looks good. I noticed he's a little thinner. He must have lost some weight during the whole coronavirus pandemic, and not finished obviously yet, but at least the hiatus now is over, and we're now in Orlando in the bubble. But Gavin, some first impressions on the Sixers and what we're looking forward to coming up here in just 5 days from the Sixers' first game.
So I watched Friday's game, and I said, and my first reaction was when Ben Simmons shot a 3, I was like, really? And with no hesitation, Zach, this shot went in well. It was like pure water. Now, let me calm down for a second, because, I'm not expecting Ben Simmons to shoot the ball every time, as you saw. But this is what this team needs. Ben finally realized, and the key to winning the championship, it's him. We need him. We need him and Joel. Now, Joel obviously didn't play yesterday's game due to a calf injury. Are you worried? I'm not worried, Zach. It's calf. He's 7'2". That happens to tall people. I know a lot of people over 6'5" that they have calf problems and knee problems. So, that's normal. Going back to Ben Simmons, he shot a 3, Zach. Multiple 3s, and they went in.
This is what we've been asking for. Exhibitions.
And for those that say, "Oh, the Sixers lost yesterday," so what? Get over it, buddy. Listen, that game means nothing. We could lose those games. I could care less. All right, Bol looks like an MVP right now because of those games. All right, if you're telling me a guy that only played one game, hasn't really played any game, Bol is going to be MVP, come on. There was a guy in the comment section on Friday talking about how Bol should be is better than Kevin Durant. Come on, stop it, please.
He did look good in yesterday's exhibition too, I have to say.
But Zach, that's totally – no one cares about this. No one cares. This is all because of Damian Lillard, really. And obviously, teams are going to need to warm up. So, Zach, let me ask you this question.
Exhibitions are more for that, but those next 8 games are thanks to Dame.
Yeah, Zach, they're going to be called Dame's Challenge. So, Zach, let me ask you this question here. We look at Ben Simmons' jump shot. We look at the spacing on that game. What's good? Like, how do you feel about the Sixers now after seeing that?
I've made this clear a few times. I can only really base it off what I've seen, and this team has showed me lack of efforts in areas, spacing problems, breakdowns physically when there's zone defense on them, and nobody really having that kind of mentality to just take the shot when they have to. But no, Ben looks really good down low. It makes a difference. You pass him the ball, he does his handles, things. He's still going to bring the ball down the court 30, 40% of the time. But you have Shake Milton. You have another shooter on Shake Milton. And by the way, Al Horford looks great too from shooting. If he shot that well during the season, then they probably don't even need to move Ben away from the point guard. But I was thinking this the other day. I think that if this works, then it stays where it is. Shake Milton. There we talked about other point guards, but I do think that if this doesn't work, Ben does go back to the point guard position, and we do bring in a bit more shooting power forward. But Ben also does have to begin shooting as well. And like you said before, Gavin, 15-foot mid-rangers do the job. But they're respecting it now. They're starting to play up back or play up on him. We're going to see how that works in the playoffs, because in the playoffs, they're probably going to play back until he proves otherwise. But I like where this team's going. I think they're better than the Pacers. They're better than the Heat. They're better than the Celtics. And they're better than the Raptors. At most, they're not. They're a good competition for the Bucks. This team was built for the playoffs from the beginning. They look better now. The bench roles are starting to get more solidified. I'm a big fan of Alec Burks. He's able to make his own shot as well. Wouldn't shock me if they put him in at crunch time, given his experience. But no, Ben Simmons still has to shoot a little, and Joel just has to be dominant inside. He has to do his job. But Tobias Harris, Josh Richardson, and Shake Milton, they need to do their roles and let the other two excel. Other than that, Gavin, I can ask you this. They are tied right now with the Pacers for the 5 and 6 seeds, respectively, currently sitting the 6 because of the tiebreaker owned by the Pacers. Where will the Sixers end up after this 8-game series or 8
I think
game?
the fifth seed, maybe even. I know I'm just speaking a little, might be a little bit biased. Maybe the fourth seed as well, but fifth seed the most. Look, Victor Oladipo does not look that well. I remember a game where he shot majority of threes, and he shot like 11 and 12 threes, only made like 4 or 5 of them just to get something to go, and they almost lost that game. So, and no discredit to Victor Oladipo, one of my favorite players in the league, top 10. And when it comes to me, for my favorite players in the league. Um, but I just think this team, you look at the Sixers team, like, how the heck are you guys the sixth seed? They're at least a fifth seed. I mean, or the fourth seed. It doesn't make this sense. You know, you go out and you spend $195 million on Tobias Harris. You turn around, you trade for Josh Richardson, and then you spend $101 million on Al Horford, and then you get out Burks and Glenn Robinson, and you're looking like, how the hell are you guys only the sixth seed? It don't make no sense for them to be the sixth seed. They should at least a fifth seed. I blame Brett Brown for a lot of things. I know this is not the time to really be blaming Brett Brown, but I think it falls on Brett Brown just not using people that well, nor motivating Ben to shoot threes in the beginning of the year.
Well, it's tough. The reason, one of the big factors of why they've won so many games, the Christmas Day game, they shot from the 3 exceptionally well. A few of the key factors there, it's about Al Horford. He can't, if he's not consistent, when he's consistent from 3, they play really well. But if he's not consistent from 3, then they don't play as well. It's about the power forward position. And the reason for that is because Ben, as a guard, doesn't shoot. So by moving him there, there's less pressure on him to shoot, and you add another shooter to the floor. Shake Milton's a better three-point shooter than Al Horford. I know it's not, time hasn't really told us the ultimate test, but he's a smaller guard who's more naturally fit to shoot the 3. So, like I mentioned, if Horford was able to shoot from 37 to 40% all year from 3, it's a tall order for a center. It's a really tall order for a center. But you need a guy who can replace that point guard shooting ability. Because Ben can, I mean, if Ben has the ball and he's in transition, he's scoring almost every time. But the key here is because it's not Horford's fault. It's really because your point guard doesn't shoot. So you have to adjust to that. Have Horford come off the bench for Joel, which is going to be a great change for me. Perhaps at the end of the game, if you don't need the points, you need more defense, Horford can come. And he's having a really good year, actually, at defense, despite what a lot of people say. But with that being said, you have to be able to have that spacing. And so I think that this is a great move, but he also has to shoot. Ben still has to shoot the ball. Because then you force Joel to be out. I think Ben's a more natural power forward. He can be a guard if your power forward's a good shooter.
Point forward.
The problem is Horford. Yeah, a problem is Horford is too inconsistent and unreliable. At least this year, that's the biggest problem with this team. I think Horford was getting injured a lot. Maybe, I mean, healthy on paper, that seemed like a good idea at the 4-5, Horford and Embiid, but we know the reality of the situation. This is the right move for the Sixers. Horford's still going to get 20-plus minutes a game in the playoffs. If they're up by 7 to 15 points and you're trying to close it up, I mean, putting Ben, having the starting lineup, Ben, Josh, Tobias, Allen, Joel is not a bad idea for the end of games. But someone has to go to shoot the ball. If Ben becomes like a 40% shooter magically, then yeah, the Al Horford at the 4 works. But he's not. It's not going to happen. So at the end of the day, it's we were talking about this before, the possibility of Joel and Ben having to divide the way the media tried to break up Shaq and Kobe. And the team Joelers would say, well, Ben doesn't shoot the 3 enough. He doesn't help Joel out. And the Ben people would say Joel needs to stay in the paint without realizing I'm actually personally on team Ben, but it's not one or the other. They're going to stay together. You don't trade generational talent. End of discussion. But I've been a bigger fan of Ben because of his defense and his effort. But it makes it harder for your center when your point guard can't shoot. So moving him to the power forward is going to be a beneficial position. Again, until I start seeing games, I'm not going to make a prediction. But they should be able to top the Pacers into the 5 seed they play. The 4 seed, which I believe is Miami, and there's no reason you shouldn't win that series with these changes. If they stay where they are, I think they play Boston. It might be flipped, actually. I think, actually, no, Miami is the 4. Yeah, so if we're the 5, we play Miami. If we're the 6, we play Boston. So I'd rather be the 5 and play Miami than Boston in the first round. And they have what it takes to go to the finals. They have the talent. It's about coaching, consistency, and Ben's ability to shoot the ball and be a playmaker, but also be smart, prevent turnovers, and be able to be strong finishes at the end of the games.
Well, for me, I'll make mine really quick. Well, you want to talk about Team Joel, the Joelers and the Bens. I was Team both. If you wanted to ask me in the beginning here, I was Team Joel. Now, when I'm Team Joel, I'm like, well, Ben doesn't shoot 3 that much, and also makes it. And my case for Joel B was, you know, when Ben Simmons crashes down there as well, or because they know Ben's not shooting, it's easy to double team Joel Embiid. It really is. So that's why my guy Joel Embiid was always getting double teamed, and it looked a little bit, disgusting when he was trying to score because he's getting double teamed, and you got the center on him, and then you got the guard reaching at Joel. And then when I'm on team both is these guys are the future. These guys are like, I'm not saying there's like KD, Curry, Pippen, Jordan, Kobe, Shaq type duo. But I wouldn't be surprised if, and when it comes to modern day duos, there might be number one. You could say Russ and Harden, but I don't really believe in Russ and Harden because of Harden's play style. But I think when it comes to there it is, ladies and gentlemen. But when it comes to basketball, when it comes to right now, I think it's Ben and Joel. So that's why I was always saying you can't get rid of the backbone and the and the duo together. But I think it all relies on Brett Brown.
No, I agree with you. It's a tricky situation. You're not getting rid of either one. If Ben can play the power forward position and can be a corner 3 specialist, which he looked like that's what he's leaning towards, Joel can't be double teamed by whoever's on Ben because you give it to Ben and he shoots it, then it's hard to defend that. That's the key to success for this team. So Gavin, it's a tough situation. It is because this team hasn't showed us why they are deserved to be at the top, but they've beaten Boston 3-1. They had a really great win against Miami the first time. The last 3 were not so good. They've beaten the Bucks once very, very well. They've beaten the Lakers. They've beaten the Clippers. I mean, on paper, there's a lot of stuff that says that they should be in favor, but they're a 6 seed right now. Remember, the Cavs went to the finals as the 4 seed. They swept the Raptors, but this team has to be able to do what they can to prevent the Joel being double teamed, having stupid turnovers at the end of games. But Gavin, before we move on to our final ad plug and our special guest, what do you think is the biggest X factor for this Sixers team, or even a sleeper for this team?
I think it's the play on Ben, not Ben Simmons. Everybody's talking about Ben Simmons' play. I look at more at Joel Embiid's play. You guys remember back in the game where the Jared Dudley fight, Crusty Dudley, as I like to call him, where the Sixers were losing that game. I think if that fight doesn't happen, they lose the game and ultimately they go back to Philadelphia to have to play a longer series versus the Brooklyn Nets. But once the fight happened, Joel Embiid is turned on by energy, crowd energy, or anything else. And I think his energy sets the tone on how this team will play. When he's sluggish and looking like he did in Game 6 and 5 versus or especially Game 6 versus the Raptors last year, then this team is obviously going to lose. But when it looks like, Game 3 or 4 Game 3 in Brooklyn, they're going to win this game. When he's showboating with it will be electric fans now because no one's there. But when he has energy and he wants to play, like I keep saying, he's the best center in the league when he wants to. So it's based on him and obviously the supporting cast around the Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid.
For me, it's Tobias Harris, and the reason for that is because he's the veteran on the team. Him and Horford, but Tobias Harris at the end of the game, the ball being in his hand, he might be making that final shot for us. He was not able to make it against the Knicks this year, unfortunately. But Tobias Harris is the closest thing you have to Jimmy Butler, and just because of his veteran experience, not because of his abilities. They're different players. One's more of a power forward, other one's more of a small forward, or even guard. But in all honesty, Tobias Harris has to be able to lead this team. He's become I've read a lot of stories about him becoming a very vocal leader for this team in the hiatus, whether for social justice. He's been very vocal about that. We know that, which is great. We've spoken about him as a player. He's a veteran. It has to be his job to make sure this team is correct in the playoffs, and Ben and Joel as well need to do their jobs. That's my X factor. But Gavin, any final statements on this before our next segment?
I don't disagree with you. Tobias Harris hits his shots, and Shake Milton hits his. Josh Richardson hits his, and Ben shoots 15 footers or above, and Joel Embiid brings energy. This team, I said, might be the best team in the East, second best.
I hope so. It's all about those ifs, and we hope to see those. Just two final statements here before we go to the next segment. All hockey players have tested negative for the coronavirus in their entrance to the bubble, which is good. Aaron Baines, who was tested positive, has cleared it and is now on his way to the bubble. Lou Will is 9 days left in his quarantine. Zion Williamson is 3 days left in his quarantine. We'll have to break all that down and more. We're breaking down more. Yep, go ahead, Gavin.
Just wait till the rest of this week, because the stuff I was telling you guys about my fear and the coronavirus and the bubble and stuff, Lou Will just proved a lot of my point, majority of it.
Well, let's see what happens as well. A lot of Clippers believe in the bubble. Makes me believe that Doc Rivers is letting them do that early on before the season resumes. But we're going to be breaking all that down, including the Miami Marlins. Could this be the Utah Jazz of the MLB as far as the coronavirus? And what does this mean for the rest of the only major league not playing in a bubble? All that up next. Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see two links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can. And again, as we had mentioned before, we are donating this month to a foundation supporting minority entrepreneurs. Should be very exciting. We are bringing in now Jake Starr. Had been on before one time, also pulling in Gavin as well. It's very exciting to have you on today. We have a lot to break down. One thing Gavin just reminded me of, we're going to break down the Jamal Adams trade, break down the coronavirus situation with the MLB. But we're also going to talk a little bit more about college football now that there's a little more information given some of the scheduling changes. Not much really to be able to speculate on. But other than that, Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys. Hope you're both doing well and had a good weekend.
Thank you, Jake. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Great. So let's break it down. We're going to start off with it. Let's break down first the Jamal Adams trade. We know that the Eagles were one of the teams that he had listed as where he wanted to go. He pretty much just listed any team that added him would make them a close to Super Bowl favorite. I don't blame him. Anyone wants to win. But an interesting situation there. Obviously wanted out. Gavin, we've spoken a lot on the show about Adam Gase and the Jets. I hate the Jets. I'll make that pretty clear right now. I think that they're not a good team. Their O-line's terrible. Le'Veon Bell's really taking a step back. Adam Gase ruins everything he touches. The Devontae Parker was not relevant until he left. Ryan Tannehill goes to Tennessee, does well. Kenyon Drake goes to Arizona. He does well. The Dolphins played with some fight this year. Surprise, Miami, they beat Philly. But as we digress, let's get back into it. Jamal Adams going to Seattle, an abundance of picks, as well as Bradley McDougall, their already starting safety, going over to New York. So, Jake, let's start with you and get some of your thoughts on it, and then let's get a trade grade for the Jets and a trade grade for the Seahawks.
It's a good trade for Seattle. I mean, they're trying to return to the dominance they had when they went to 2 Super Bowls back earlier last decade with that Legion of Boom secondary. So now you got somebody like a Jamal Adams out there. You pair him with a Shaq Griffin, a corner, and I think you got a chance to form a pretty good secondary. And I mean, the key has always been with that team is building around Russell Wilson. and how they're going to do it. And I think that Jamal Adams trade is a great start to that. Obviously, handcuff some in the draft the next couple of years. You lose 2 first-round picks, but you're able to sign Jamal Adams to a big extension, and he's able to produce there. Those 2 first-round picks, you're parting with those. For the Jets, I think, McDougal, really solid player, really underrated player. I think he's going to be a good addition to New York. But, I think New York's issues are a lot deeper than a couple of players. I think there's a culture issue in that town, and I think Adam Gase is a big part of that. I don't think Sam Darnold's the answer, but getting a guy like Bradley McDougal, maybe it helps the defense a little bit. You got 2 first-round picks, but I think those first-round picks are going to contribute to a rebuild that's going to start very soon.
Right, and so it's a good point there as far as the Jets. They have a bad culture problem, them and the Lions and some of the other teams where it starts at the organization with the top. Maybe the Phillies are falling in that area too, as much as we don't want that to happen. Me personally, I give the Seahawks a B, and the reason I give them a B is because you're continuing to throw money at guys. You gave a lot of money to Russell Wilson, Gaven. How many times have we spoken about on this show rookie contracts and quarterbacks winning Super Bowls on them?
Well, I know you're big on rookie deals for quarterbacks because they always win a Super Bowl in there. Carson was part of it.
Right. No, I agree. And so as far as the cap space is situated, first of all, Seattle is an interesting team. It's literally Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, and they just give them a bunch of C and B players, and then surrounded with an A coach and A quarterback. That's how it should work. My personal philosophy is surrounding a quarterback and an AO line with mediocre to good weapons and just being able to be smart with them, keep the pace going. But this team's different. Their O-line is one of the worst in the league. Their defense, they're trying to get back to that dominance with the Legion of Boom. At the end of the day, it's a tough one for me to personally judge. As far as the Jets, I think they're just a dumpster fire. And Le'Veon Bell went off on Jamal Adams. It kind of sounded like Jamal was the leading guy who got Le'Veon to come there and said, "Oh, it's great here," and then he left himself. So it's not a good look for the Jets at all. I give them a B or a C, more of a C plus. And then for the Seahawks, I mentioned that grade before because you're losing 2 first-round picks. They did sign Carlos Hyde. They also have Rashad Penny. But at the same time, Penny's coming off an injury. They were one of the top running teams in the league last year until their guys went down and you were stuck with Marshawn Lynch. But Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are coming back. You have a couple tight ends there with Jacob Hollister and a few others that are still fairly good. And that defense is still trying to bounce back. But is it possible that Russell Wilson's shortcomings in the playoffs could be responsible for this? Jake, I'll let you go first, and then Gavin will get your full thoughts on the entire trade.
It's hard to say shortcomings in the playoffs when the guy has been to 2 Super Bowls, but I mean, I just think it's always been about surrounding cast in Seattle, and I think if they can do a better job building a cast around Russell Wilson that, can be productive in big games, that's a step forward. But the big thing is the offensive line. If they can really step up with the offensive line and protect Russell Wilson, I think it's a good start. They need to build that offensive line, and you lose 2 first-round picks, so it's going to be tough to do that.
No doubt. And first, I want to get my initial thoughts on the trade, and I'm a grade before I give that. I think the Seahawks grade is probably an A minus in my opinion. And yes, I know the loss of 2 first-round picks it's big, but you guys got to remember the odds of them actually finding someone great in that late of the first round. It's not that big. It's kind of slim. Lamar Jackson was probably in recent memory. Lamar Jackson and Josh Jacobs were probably the only 2 guys that did something really good. Lamar Jackson MVP. Josh Jacobs could have been Rookie of the Year, but got robbed with Kyler Murray, who I didn't think deserved it. So you guys look at it, and they always get the 25th or the 26th pick in back, or maybe the 20th. So the odds of them finding someone good is low. So you get a guy in Jamal Adams who, one, didn't want to be in the New York Jets no more, and you get yourself a guy who is going to lay it all on the line. I remember I got to meet the guy personally, and he told me personally. He said he leaves it all out there on the field. He said, whatever you do, leave it all, put it all in, put everything you got into it, because you never know when it could be your last game. Anything could be your last game in the NFL, your last day on earth. Just put your all into everything you do. So I give him an A minus. And that's just because the guy you got on defense, and you're adding on to a defense that wasn't the worst, it wasn't the best, but it was one of the defenses that gets overlooked sometimes. And I like to view it. You lose Earl Thomas, you don't have Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman's gone. You're like, well, who the heck they got there? And you look at they still got the best middle linebacker in the league, and then you got Jamal Adams, and one of the Griffin brothers, I think it's Shaquille that's on the corner side. He's really good too. and then you got some other supporting cast around him. So I give the Jets an F, and here's why: you could not keep your star Jamal Adams happy. Anything Adam Gase is exactly right. Anything Adam Gase touches is disgusting. I think the Midas touch. Everything he touched turned to gold. Everything Adam Gase touched turns to mush. I don't want what Adam Gase ever had. Matter of fact, Adam Gase has to be one of the worst coaches in NFL right now. And before you go into the deep detail with the Le'Veon Bell and how he felt, remember, before you come at Jamal Adams, Le'Veon Bell, your production was way down this year. You can make the case that the offensive line wasn't the greatest. It shouldn't matter because even though Jamal Adams was the lead vocalist to get you there, a lot of people can change their feelings on things. Guys, Kyrie Irving said he wanted to stay and he ended up leaving. So let me go to my initial thoughts on the trade. And I want everybody to know this. And when I say this, and I had to say this from Monday show, Zach and Jake, because as soon as the trade broke out, I immediately laughed at Cowboys fans because they thought they were going to get everybody. And just to see the dissatisfaction of Cowboys fans again, Jake is like, I don't know how it makes you guys feel, but it brings like a joy to me. The Phillies are getting spanked. The next day, it didn't matter because the Cowboys didn't get Jamal Adams. I know we didn't get him, and I know he goes to another NFC team where we would have to face him maybe in the playoffs or so. But the Cowboys didn't get him. That's all that matters to me. And that kind of brings some hope, or kind of clarifies that, or gives some vision that maybe Jadeveon Clowney is not coming back to Seattle. Maybe Jadeveon Clowney, Zach, I know I'm a big advocate for this. I think Jadeveon Clowney might end up coming to the Eagles after all, after everything that went down here. And I know there's a lot of Eagles fans that don't want to see him here, but my thing is, it was a freak accident. All right, things happen in the NFL. If you were to tell me, Zach and Jake, if you were to sign up to play any type of football and be like, the risk of you getting concussions is a 0% chance, that's a lie. Concussions happen every day. It's just unfortunate that Carson Wentz's face hit the ground and his head bounced. So I can't really get mad at the guy anymore. The initial thought I was pissed because of the playoffs. But after that, I got over it. Back to Jamal Adams trade. I think it's a great Zach and Jake. You guys talk about supporting cast. That's right. Well, Russell Wilson, in my opinion, can always be MVP because he never had an offensive line. He's one of those. He's like a Cam Newton, never had an offensive line, but he always gets the job done.
It's a good point too. So as we wrap up that, we're going to shift gears now. But as you mentioned, Gavin, we're going to have to keep talking about that. We're going to come up with a anti-Midas touch for Adam Gase as that continues to progress.
That's hard.
Bryce Harper tried to recruit Le'Veon Bell here. So a lot of people recruiting Le'Veon did not live up to the hype this year for New York. But let's shift gears now to the MLB. Let's get some of the most recent news. We'll go on to Jake, who can be labeled our MLB correspondent, talking about what the situation is currently with Major League Baseball. We know tonight's games for the Marlins and for the Phillies were canceled. What's the more that you can tell us?
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Both games. I think the Marlins game was canceled. Phillies game was officially postponed. So there's hope they can play that at a later date, maybe part of a doubleheader either this week or later in the season, if there is a later in the season. This one, who the heck knows right now. But, I think right now what the goal is, all the Phillies players were just in Citizens Bank Park this afternoon. They all got tested. The tests are going to be sent up to Rutgers University Medical Center. They'll run the test, and hopefully we have results back by tomorrow morning. And then from there, that's when you know where you're going at that point, because right now, you're the Miami Marlins. You got 14 positive COVID tests. You need 2 consecutive, official negative tests before you can do anything. So if you're Miami and you want to play, first of all, you got to keep testing, wait for those test results to come back, and then you got to ship up 15 new players from AAA and start playing with them. And then for the Phillies situation, what you're doing now is you hope and pray that they come back with little to no positives and they disinfect that clubhouse, and then they head up to New York, or New York comes here and you start a series and you just, you hope for the best. The expectation was, worst case scenario would be 3-4 guys at a time got COVID. There was nothing in the rule book for what to do when 14 guys in the same clubhouse get it. So you're kind of learning on the fly right now, and we'll see what happens.
So, Jake, I have a question for you. So the news broke out that the original starting pitcher, I can't say his name, but the original starting pitcher for the Miami Marlins came down with coronavirus. and the game was still played. So Jake, I want to get your thoughts. Do you think the game should have been canceled right then and there?
Yes, I think it should have. I mean,
And we knew
you
before the game. This was not breaking news afterwards. We knew he was
no,
out with it.
once you get the 4 positive tests, you have to say, okay, let's take a step back here because we're at this point now. There's 9 guys that were in that dugout or on the field yesterday that had it in their system and could be infecting other guys while we're waiting for the test to come back. And that's the issue with that. It's a 1-2 day lag time on tests, so you have tests go out, but you're waiting a couple of days until you have those tests come back. So you're kind of up in the air right now. So it's kind of just Major League Baseball's got to find a better way to get a faster return time if they want to complete this season.
Do you think it's more about a faster return time or the possibility of having gaps between games and shrinking the season even more?
Faster return. I mean, if you can test the guy in the morning and know an hour or two later what his results are, that makes it easy because then you're rolling out 25 guys that are negative. But if you're testing a guy Monday morning and not getting a result back till Wednesday morning, and you play a game Monday night, Tuesday night, there's a chance that there's 4 or 5 guys on one team that is carrying the virus. So it's all about faster return time because once you get that faster return time, you're exposing a lot less players to the virus.
Are you hoping that this is a fluke, or is this going to be a legit problem that might shut down the MLB again?
I personally think it's an outlier. I don't think we're going to see a ton of situations where we see 14 players getting the virus. I think that hopefully, the worst case scenario, 4 or 5 guys, you isolate them, you keep testing everybody else, and you just bring in guys from AAA. But obviously, you have to hope for the best here. And I think MLB has no plans right now on stopping this season. So you'll keep going. But if it gets to a point where it becomes a super spreader, you have to take a step back. But you just have to hope. And I do think this is an outlier, and we'll see what happens.
So Jake, earlier they were talking about a bubble where everybody goes to Arizona and play. Obviously, they didn't fall through with that. Everybody's in their home stadium. Do you think this is going to come back on Rob Manfred as I should have did a bubble instead of argue about money with Blake Snell and the Players Association?
Well, here's the difference between baseball and the NBA and NHL when it comes to a bubble. NBA and NHL are towards the end of their season. So they're finishing up their seasons, and they're getting out of there. Major League Baseball and the NFL, too, are both in situations where you have full seasons to play. So, is it really right to tell these guys, okay, we're going to go in a bubble for the next 6 months? Probably not. Baseball probably could have done it just because it's a shorter season. But I think, look, here's something I saw on Twitter earlier that I agree with. Major League Baseball players are probably even at less risk than the everyday person is of contracting the virus because, look, they're getting tested every day. They're limiting their exposure. We're probably out and about, seeing more people every day than a Major League Baseball player is. It's just the fact of the matter is they're in a very safe situation. I'm sure they're following all the protocols. It just happened to be an unfortunate situation where someone in Miami got it and spread it. So it's just about, finding ways to contain that. And hopefully once you contain this Miami situation and make sure that the Phillies and other teams that have been associated with the Phillies and the Marlins aren't exposed to it, then hopefully you can keep going on with the season. And just, the key is going to be, as I said, test turnaround time.
Do you think?
So one thing, too, I think as far as looking at it for the NFL, I think the NFL is not going to have a problem this year because their games are a week apart. You're going to easily get a lot of test results back. But no, rapid testing is going to be pretty important if they can make that more of a priority because even if they can find a way where if NFL players are getting tested during the week and 2-3 days later you get your results back, if they can do rapid testing on game day, that's probably going to be important. Or even like getting tested Friday, coming back negative, and isolating yourself for the final 2 or 3 days, we're going to see some interesting things coming forward. But Jake, any final statements on that, or what I just said with the NFL, or even with the MLB before we shift to our final topic, talking about college football?
The MLB and NFL the goal is to be how can you create a bubble environment without actually being in a bubble? How can you make sure that the players are literally at the complex, back in their house, and they're nowhere else? It's hard and it's probably impossible to do, but you have to do what you can to create a bubble environment and put protocols out there. Like, look, if we find out you're at a party or at a gentleman's club like Lou Williams, you're going to be suspended. You're going to be reprimanded because it's impossible to create a bubble, but you have to find a way for each individual team to create their own bubble. And same thing, the planes have to be, spread out and just take all the proper precautions, but we'll see what happens.
So definitely let's shift on to that final topic now, talking about football. You're on before we were just talking about just scratching the surface before teams really started diving into it and starting with sports back up. It's not going to be a bubble what we're looking at right now. Can't swap jerseys. We can tackle each other for 60 minutes. But going over to the NCAA, talking about football right now, it's no interconferences. Big Ten. Ivy League's pushed off the spring already, but ACC. SEC is going to be fun this year. That's going to be pretty good, at least to watch. It's going to be competitive football. But, Jake, some thoughts on that and then the optimism or even pessimism of this season moving forward for college football and the importance. And even with or without fans, some thoughts on that.
I mean, if you're a college football team and you just see what's happening with the MLB right now, how do you feel comfortable going out and playing? I mean, you're not a professional either, so it's not like you're getting $1 million to go play. I mean, it's tough for a student athlete, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, look, the guys want to play. They definitely want to play, but it's about the schools, it's about the NCAA, and it's about the conferences, finding a way to make it safe. And the key is for college, I mean, it's a lot harder to put yourself in a bubble in college football than it is in professional football. In college, you're living in close quarters with other teammates. You are walking around campus. You're walking around downtown. So, Penn State's been fortunate. Penn State has had, I think, 0 positive tests amongst the football program. They've had 1 positive test amongst all the athletes that are back on campus right now. I believe it was a women's basketball player. Not 100% sure on that, but that's what I heard. So it's been 1 positive test so far. But the real key is going to be what happens in 3 weeks from now when students begin to return to campus and football players are going to be exposed. Instead of being exposed to maybe 100 people a week, they're possibly exposed to 20, 30,000 people a week because you go sit in a class, even though they're spread out, you get in contact with 1 kid, they were in contact with 10, and it multiplies. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens once schools start bringing kids back on campus and how they're able to protect the players from anything bad happening to them.
Well, Jake, you make a valid point, a great point, and this is my side. I've been arguing ever since is how can you start college sports with if you can't give or get those other students on? And it's the same thing with high school sports. I know we had Dom one, and we were saying how can we get high school sports started if we can't get high school students into the building. So Jake, where do you stand, or how do you feel? I know you're a college student. How do you just feel about everything that's going on and how it's being handled?
I mean, ultimately, my thing is how can you validate having college kids play sports, but you're not having kids back on campus? Like, there's something, I don't know, something just seems off about that. And my take has always been, I think students being on campus will correlate with whether or not sports are played. And, right now, Penn State plans to be on campus, but a lot of schools have also, flipped the switch. I think Rutgers is all online. Harvard's all online. Delaware announced last week they're going all online. So how can you say it's not safe enough to bring students back to campus, but it's safe enough to play football? I mean, it's a tough predicament. And also there's a lot of money there. So, I'm sure the NCAA and the conference are going to do everything they can to try to get a season going, but maybe ultimately they end up shifting gears and they push the college football season to, a February start, just so you give yourself more time for maybe a vaccine, more time for, the numbers to go down. So that's what I think. I mean, there's going to be outbreaks no matter what happens. It's just a matter of containing them. But also, I mean, if you get to a point where you have 30, 40 kids the week of a game who test positive, you could lose your whole first string offense just like that. So it's definitely a situation. And really, there's barely any rule book to play it right now. But, I mean, I give them credit. They're going full steam ahead. They're still working out. They have guys on campus. They have every intention of starting the season. But we'll have to see what happens.
With that being said, now we hope so, and definitely can't expect your athletes when they're not being paid, especially to be on campus when your own students aren't. Even outside of that, it's not a good look for anyone. But like you said, there's no rule book to really play by. This is a very unique situation as we continue to progress through it all together as one country, one world, and one people. So with that being said, Jake, thanks so much for being on today. Much appreciated.
Jake.
Look forward to it again. Any final statements from either of you? Jake, you can go first, and then Gavin.
Just, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it today.
Jake, well, buddy, you always got to come back. Always a pleasure when you have you on. And I got some more questions for you. And I got to ask you about some more about Penn State football because I'm not too sure about not having fans this year. I think that might affect the boys that much, but I got to wait for next time when you come back on.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to being on next time.
Will be a lot of fun. We definitely have an exciting show today. With that being said, everyone, thanks so much for being on today. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow as we continue to break it down, seeing what the Phillies situation looks like, and a whole lot more. So thanks again for tuning in. Links are in the description if you're interested in supporting us. Have a great day. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts of our videos.